Hello, Senior Stoner fans. It's the real Senior Stoner back at you for your Puffco Peak Pro dab of the day. Hello, everybody. Today is Friday. Good morning. What I want to speak about today are priorities, time priorities, and what it means, and how to clarify those priorities. Let's discuss. Many of us, most of us, would acknowledge that the more you focus on priorities in your life, the more quickly or more likely we are to achieve the outcomes we're desiring. That's logic. If we've already spring cleaned our lives, removed the distracting things, obstacles in our way, and become clearer in our own strengths and values, well, now we're ready to focus on what's really important. Remember, the most successful, organized, focused people are people that have focus continuously. That means they don't wake up in the morning and go, ugh. They wake up and they have focus. They recognize their priorities and their strengths, and frankly, they don't pay a lot of attention to the rest. Focusing on priorities also helps you to avoid, let's say, getting sidetracked by the unimportant things, the unimportant but urgent activities, the worries we have, the health issues that can take over our daily life. And we've all discovered this, that if you do some kind of time tracking exercise, some type of a measurement tool, how much time we spend wasting our time. So, what we want to learn to do is make our time work for us. That's right, make it work for us by concentrating on the most important priorities so that you can achieve a lot more in less time. You know, people used to say to me when I was an executive, "What's your objective, Senior Stoner? Mr. Sir, what's your objective?" To do the most for the least. I was about efficiency. Let me do the most, get the most sales for the least amount of work. I'm sorry to say it that way, but that is true time and business management. So, it's about investing your time wisely. And we need to discuss what I would call, and many people do, the 80-20 rule. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. But sometimes, to many of us, it doesn't feel like enough time. It's a fact of life. That there's often more for us to do than you could possibly do in the time available. So you need to make wise choices on how to invest your time and your energy. It's important that you're doing the right things just as much as it's important that you're doing things right. Both of those things are very important. So the 80-20 rule, that is, 20% of all of our activities are likely to produce 80% of the meaningful results in our lives. Think about it for a second. Hold on. What's the 20% for you? What's the small handful of activities that really produce the key results in your life? That's the question. That's what we all have to come to grips with. Now, I like to think in threes. Makes it easy. What are the three things that would make the biggest difference in your life? And then move towards those things. Try to minimize it in order to maximize it, if that makes any sense. When I was asked many years ago to develop sales training programs, I learned that the best way to describe a product was to do what I call chalk it down. You could talk about features, advantages, and benefits all you want, but when it gets into specs, you had to chalk it down to the lowest common denominator. Plastic, metal, glass, computer chips inside. You had to get to the basics. Well, it's the same thing when we're talking about life here. So, what we really have to think about and work on, not procrastinate, is how do we find the activities to focus on, and how do we find the activities to minimize? How do we find that 20% and call it, let's say, gold time? Okay? Well, you focus on the power of three. So there's no more than three important activities that you're going to think about so that you can give them as much time as possible. Think about it. It's a huge challenge to most people. However, because it's tempting to take on more because you think you can. But if you're serious about making focus change, maintaining your focus, it's really imperative for you to triangulate, to get down to the tip of the spear. And it requires some discipline. And it requires us to say no quite a bit to the other things that are tempting us. Because too many times we spend a lot of time rushing around, chasing our tails, coping with our issues, solving other problems, essentially firefighting our lives. That's not what I want to talk about here. We do not want to lose sight of our priorities. It's impossible to be effective if we lose sight of our priorities. So clarification, minimizing how many there are, is going to be critical to our success. It's critical as we go through life that we realize how precious and how limited time is. So, for us, it's imperative that what we do, and what did I title it? The power of threes. Don't get more complicated than the power of threes. Invest your time wisely. Think about the 80-20 rule. Bring all those horses to bear. Because you know what? You're going to be dragged left and right by your own mind. You're going to be dragged left and right by all the things you want to do, all the things you want to accomplish. But you've got to do one, you've got to do it well, and then you've got to move on. You've got to attack these things, these priorities, very strategically, not like a whirling dervish. Let's take our Puffco Peak Pro dab of the day today with a nice sativa diamond, and let's start our day. It's really about shooting a 30-06 if you understand rifles instead of a shotgun. They call it a scatter gun because you shoot it from here. By the time it gets there, it's all spread out. If you shoot a bullet, a 30-06, it goes right in, right through. So what I'm asking everybody to do, to think about, is harnessing all that energy we have on the things that are really important. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. This is The Real Senior Stoner. I listen to all your comments. I love them, so please send them. And this has been your Puffco Peak Pro Dab of the Day. Cheers, everybody. And have a great day.